Planning a trip can sometimes be pretty overwhelming. It's hard to know where to start. So in today's video, we're gonna give you 8 steps to start planning your next vacation.
So if that interests you, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned.
Hey guys, it's Kayla.
And I'm Mark Allen.
And this is Simply Ever After. Here we give you travel tips and tricks to help you go and create your own Ever After. And today we are going to talk about starting to plan a trip. There's a lot that can go into planning a trip. It can really be hard to know where to start. So we have kind of some 8 steps to get you started on your next vacation.
The first thing we're going to talk about is your budget, because if you know anything about us, we pay cash for all of our trips. We don't finance a single penny of it. A budget can really determine what your vacation is going to look like, where you're going to stay, where you're even going to go. And I mean, everything, at least in our opinion, kind of goes off of that budget and what that's going to look like.
Now, obviously, you can always dream of how much you want to spend on vacations, but it is really important to be realistic with your budget and to know what you are actually comfortable spending and what you can actually afford. Don't worry, there's still plenty of things that you can do on a low budget as well as a high budget. This brings us into our next step, and that is to create your travel bucket list. So this is where you need to start kind of making a list of places that you want to go. It's really good to have a good variety of places. That way you, maybe if you're able to have more time off, you know you can go farther, or if you have more money, you can go international or stay longer. But if you don't have as much, you at least have some ideas of some places that are nearby that are going to be maybe a little bit more affordable for you.
The biggest thing, and 2020 taught us a lot of this, is just being flexible. Obviously, if you have, an international trip that's really, really high on your bucket list, you probably aren't going to be able to go there for a while. And so flexibility is really, really key here.
That's why it's really important to have a good variety of places. That way, if plan A doesn't work out, you at least have plan B so that you can still be doing something. Next, you need to think about transportation. How are you going to get to your destination? Are you flying, traveling by train? Are you gonna drive? Are you gonna take a boat? It's kind of good to start thinking about these things because this again is going to change the way your trip looks. If you are driving, you are gonna have to dedicate potentially more days to travel than if you were to fly or even take a train.
Along with this too, you do need to think about transportation while you're actually on vacation. Do you need to rent a car? Do you need a mountain bike? Do you need to rent a kayak? All of these things are some form of transportation, and some of these items can really, really be pretty pricey.
Depending on your mode of transportation, this is also going to determine when you need to start looking for tickets. If you are flying, you're gonna need to look pretty far out in advance. If you're planning on driving, then you don't necessarily have to worry as much about that. You just need to be more concerned about making sure that your car is up to date on any sort of like oil change or services that it needs at the time.
The next thing we're gonna talk about is the length of time for your vacation. Again, this is something that always goes back to the budget, but it also, you have to think about work. If you're, like us, we both have full-time jobs. And so getting vacation time off is obviously a huge thing to really consider when starting to plan your trip.
For example, if you're wanting to travel internationally, you probably want to make sure that you're going to have enough time off to be able to get there and see all the things that you want to see. If you only have maybe 4 or 5 days off, that may not be in the books for you this time, and you may want to look at something a little closer. The next thing you need to start thinking about is, what do you want your trip to look like? What kind of trip do you want? Are you wanting something that's super adventurous where you're doing lots of outdoor activities, or maybe you just want to relax and sit on a beach and drink margaritas for a week? Either way, it's good to start thinking about what you want that vacation to look like, because this is going to determine a lot of other factors later on.
And along with deciding what your trip is going to look like, you have to decide, like, if you are going to, do a relaxation type, where you're on the beach a lot, you're probably going to want to stay in a nicer resort on the beach. But if you're doing some hiking, you might just not want to do that and maybe stay in an Airbnb where you can have that hiking gear and not have to worry about like getting stuff dirty. And so again, all of this kind of goes into and piggybacks off of the other tips that we've already talked about.
So the biggest thing is really knowing what you want to get out of your trip. Not only that, but you need to know when you want to go. So say you're wanting to go skiing in Colorado, you're probably not going to plan your trip for July. Or maybe you are wanting to do a beach vacation. You're probably going to want to try and avoid hurricane season. So it's good to kind of know when you want to go, so that way you know how much time you have to save and budget. But also too, if you maybe don't have as much time and weather and climate are going to be factors for you, you may have to adjust your plans a little bit.
And after all of that is said and done, now it's time to actually research what you're going to do while you're on your vacation. So hopefully by now you know how long you're going, when you're going, where you're going, and what it's going to look like. You have to figure out, okay, now what are we actually going to do? Because when we vacation, and you're probably the same way, we don't just sit on the couch and watch TV. Sure, that might sound great for a day, but I don't know about you, but I don't want to do that the whole trip. And so, if you are on a beach, what type of beach activities are you going to do? If you're taking a mountain vacation, what kind of hikes are you going to do? You need to figure out these things obviously beforehand, but also have some backups, because if anything that 2020 taught us, it's always have some sort of backup plan.
Some great tools to kind of help you get started with your research is to just get inspiration online. Pinterest and Instagram, you can always watch travel vloggers on YouTube, or even just read some travel blogs. These will give you some really great ideas of some kind of well-known destinations wherever you plan on traveling, but also maybe some lesser known little hidden gems that are fun to explore as well. And finally, the last thing we want to give you to kind of get you started on planning your next vacation is to research travel insurance. This is very, very important, especially if you're planning on going on an expensive trip, an international trip, or a longer trip. You never know what might happen, and it's good to have that insurance in place just in case you need it. However, the big catch with this of why you want to start planning this early, a lot of times travel insurance has to be booked within a certain amount of time of when you book your accommodations, whether that be flight or hotel or resorts or anything to that effect. So it's good to be looking into that now. That way you are prepared as soon as you book those flights that you can take the next step.
And along with this, you'll obviously want to research, when's the best time to buy your tickets, buy your accommodations, and things like that. So there's great things like Hopper, Google Flights, where you can track flight prices. And there's also things like Expedia, TripAdvisor, a bunch of different websites out there where you can put in where you're going, when you're going, those types of things, to have them watch those hotel prices for you so that you can always get the best deal.
And of course, along with all of this, you do need to be researching if there's any special requirements of paperwork or anything that you are going to need for on your trip. For example, if you're traveling internationally, you're definitely gonna need a passport, and you're probably gonna need a visa. So those are definitely some good things to be looking into. But even if you are just traveling domestically or here within the States, it's good to know if there are any sort of health restrictions, especially this year with COVID going on, before you go, because some things may be closed. Some places may still need you to quarantine. And of course, with the new vaccine coming out, there are probably gonna be some places that will require that you are vaccinated before you go.
Well, these were our 8 tips, and hopefully that gives you a good idea of what to do and where to start, because sometimes vacations, especially the past couple of years, have been pretty overwhelming to think about. So hopefully this gives you some peace of mind going forward and kind of some next steps for you.
Let us know down in the comments below, what trips are you planning this year? What are some of those bucket list destinations that you hope to travel to this year? And of course, if this video was helpful for you, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, and of course, subscribe for more travel tips and tricks to help you plan your next vacation. That's all we have for you guys today. Now go create your ever after.
I like our new studio.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you feel so moody and
do.
cool now?
I like our little plant. What's his name?
I don't know. I just hope my cat doesn't eat it. Because he might die.
I don't think he will. He'd have to be adventure cat to get up there.
I don't know. He's kind of dumb sometimes.
Yeah, he has diabetes. All right. Bye.